legend tells of a legendary warrior.
Narration.
Which is meant to build Poe's character. This opening dream sequence is meant to establish Poe's love of Kung Fu and the Furious Five, so the narration here is required.
How did Poe get down from that high up so quickly? He's either mastered teleportation in his fantasy, or this is later. All his former foes are gone, and it's just raining cats and dogs.
Are you seriously questioning logic in a dream?
Never before had a panda been so feared and so loved.
Pandas of the past have set a pretty low bar for both of those. Pandas mostly just lay around, eat bamboo, and don't have sex.
Okay. Why is this a sin of the movie? The way I see it, you basically supported Poe's point even more. He said, never before has a panda been so feared or so loved, and you just gave examples of why they wouldn't be.
The Furious Five seem rather nonchalant about being on fire.
Are you saying the Furious Five are on fire? Because just from this shot, the fire is clearly behind them. Even if this was true, this is an animated, stylized dream we're talking about here. It's dramatic like this on purpose.
The Furious Five!
I wonder how much DreamWorks had to pay Neil Moritz to call him that.
Oh, a Fast and Furious joke. This doesn't really work though, because this movie came out in 2008, 1 year before the fourth Fast film, so the hilarious titles of those movies weren't even known yet.
We should hang out.
Why is Monkey the only one who wants to hang out with him, even in his own fantasy?
Why is that the assumption you make, instead of Monkey saying what the other five are thinking?
Also, this is one of the 7 brief times Jackie Chan as Monkey gets to speak.
So I looked up the Kung Fu Panda script, and as it turns out, Jackie Chan actually has 9 lines in this movie. Hey, CinemaSins likes being overly nitpicky, why can't I?
Why are Poe's dreams/fantasies two-dimensional?
Because movies are art, and this is the kind of animation the filmmakers wanted to do to make their movies seem unique. Honestly, I think this is a genius idea. Since dreams aren't real, 2D animation doesn't look real, but 3D animation is closer to looking real, and so that's what it looks like in the real world. Even if you ignore what I said, who cares, Jeremy? Nobody was watching this movie and thinking that was a legit problem.
Uh-oh! Get up!
Is that small cot his bed?
Yes.
Poe is able to fall down the stairs without cutting the shit out of his hand with the ninja star he's holding.
Well, we're talking about a world where animals are basically humans, humans don't exist, and a panda learns freaking Kung Fu. But this is the most ridiculous thing to you?
How is Poe's father a duck? I mean, I'm all for adoption or animal-based movies, but in early China, a duck adopting a panda? I just don't see it.
Okay, this sin is actually inexcusable. Kung Fu Panda 2 came out in 2011, and you made this video in 2016 to hype up the then upcoming third film, so you definitely know that Ping found Poe in that radish basket and decided to take care of him because of his compassion.
Poe falls down the stairs, gets up, and picks up the radishes with both hands. Yet a ninja star ends up in these noodles?
And also in that flashback, Ping mentions that he decided not to use radishes in his noodle soups, so those aren't radishes.
Oh, happy day, my son finally having the noodle dream.
I don't know a lot about cooking noodles or owning a noodle restaurant, but is the only qualification having a dream about noodles? Specifically, the noodle dream? I didn't have a dream about making fun of movies for a living. Oh, wait, yeah, I did.
And this is also a world where peacocks invented fireworks. My point is that this world has different rules from ours.
How are those rabbits not super pissed that Poe and his dad are just chit-chatting and not serving them soup?
Says they're not serving them soup while showing Ping handing them soup.
Didn't you ever, I don't know, want to do something else? Something besides noodles?
It's the hero has dreams beyond what his family wants cliché, even though being a fourth-generation restaurateur sounds like a pretty nice gig.
Being a restaurateur is a better gig than Kung Fu?
Also, why do some of the noodle soup patrons get table service while the others pick up at the counter?
Maybe both of those are options that the customer gets to choose.
And does he really need to know the tables? I feel like he could just pass out noodles to whoever doesn't have noodles.
This is coming from someone who currently works customer service. Trust me, that kind of work has the potential to release a Karen.
Hilarity aside, shouldn't Master Oogway possess some kind of wind-altering power that would allow him to blow out all the candles with a simple tilt of the staff? Or does he need to attend the Lord Blackwood School of Extinguishment? Master Shifu attended the Lord Blackwood School of Extinguishment and didn't invite anyone else.
CinemaSins honestly explains this point better, but to summarize, this scene is meant to build character. Oogway is someone who takes his time and doesn't like to rush, while Shifu is someone who wants to get straight to the point.
So do all the creatures of this universe have low-resolution memories, or is it just Shifu and Poe?
Memories? You know the opening sequence was a dream, right? And once again, this is a stylistic choice.
Is that a magic staff? Does this turtle use magic? Why not use magic instead of Kung Fu?
In both sequels, this series has established that after learning Kung Fu, the student then moves on to learning how to do anything with the power of inner peace, and then how to harness their chi. This tells me that Kung Fu is needed to learn magic.
So did the Furious Five get dropped out of a helicopter, or do they all have the ability to jump 400 feet into the air?
Well, this is a silly question. One of the members has the ability to fly, for crying out loud, and he also has super strength. How is that not obvious to you?
The 1,000 tongues of fire.
I was disappointed to find out there is not an adult movie called this.
Jeremy sends something he likes cliche?
Every time I see them all together, I think to myself, there are 4 of them. Why are they called the Furious Five? Oh wait, I didn't see the Mantis. That's racist.
So the sin here is that Mantis is tiny? That's not a sin in the movie. That's a sin for you. You're right. That is racist.
The universe has brought us the Dragon Warrior.
Choosing the Dragon Warrior is an incredibly vague process. The oldest dude just points randomly and whatever is in front of his finger is the winner.
As Oogway states, there are no accidents. He believes everything has a point to it.
There are no accidents.
Not believing in accident.
I disagree that that's a sin, but that should have debunked your last sin.
1,000 guards and 1 prisoner.
All subsidized by Valley of Peace tax dollars. Ridiculous. What must the taxes be like for these citizens?
Who cares?
Behold Tai Lung.
Between letting a random messenger in to see the world's most guarded prisoner and the haphazard way they chose Dragon Warrior, I'm concerned about this ancient Chinese animal society's looseness with safety and protocol.
Random messenger? This goose said he had a message from Master Shifu, and they're keeping a prisoner that presumably Shifu himself handed to them. Of course they'd let him in.
They made me Google, does China have rhinos? I'm not watching Kung Fu Panda to learn, people.
Yes, China has rhinos. And that point about not wanting to learn, I guess that explains their ignorance when it comes to comic book movies.
You will never be the Dragon Warrior until you have learned the secret of the Dragon Scroll.
Whoa. So, how does this work? Do you have a ladder or a trampoline
Or perhaps a chair and some fireworks? Or maybe one of the Furious Five could just jump up there and get it.
Except Shifu himself then goes on to explain that he can't just hand the Dragon Scroll to Poe, he has to earn it. And I'm pretty sure you've already seen this movie, so you know how Shifu ultimately gets it down.
So, is this duck their slave? Just asking.
Maybe it's a servant. Maybe it's an employee. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect the quality of the film. Nobody cares.
Or even see his toes.
This is 2 of the 7 times Jackie Chan gets to speak.
Oh, so we're continuing to use the wrong number. That's not going to get grading at all.
Also, why is Poe hiding out behind rocks along an obscure walkway in the middle of the night?
Because he's following the 5 to their bedrooms?
So does China use these kind of paper screens the same way Japan does? Kung Fu Panda, stop trying to make me learn.
Even if they don't, this isn't the real world we're talking about here, so this kind of question doesn't matter.
Is that what this is? I'm so sorry. I thought it was just a regular peach tree.
Poe may not have any Kung Fu skills at this point, but his talking with a mouthful of peaches skills are on point.
Ah, here's the questioning physics in a cartoon portion of the video.
Quit. Don't quit. Noodles. Don't noodles.
Don't noodles? What everyone may be interpreting as Oogway's wisdom is really just Oogway's Alzheimer's.
Jeremy conveniently leaves out the rest of Oogway's speech here, furthering the correct interpretation that he's being a wise sage.
For such a high-quality prison run by rhinos, they really didn't think through the restraining process, even though this prison is completely dedicated to Tai Lung. It's clear that he can escape if he just has any piece of anything.
Let's think about this for a second. The only way Tai Lung was able to escape is because of a goose's feather. That is something the guards didn't think about, and it's not something they would have thought would work. And he's currently tied up here, and the only way he got out was because the rhinos started shooting giant arrows at him, and Tai Lung was able to position chains to get hit by the arrows. That's an example of the rhinos underestimating him.
This takes the henchmen are terrible shots cliche to a whole new level. They have giant crossbows on mounts, and he is still relatively restrained.
You literally showed Tai Lung moving out of the way to dodge those arrows!
So this was pure luck for Tai Lung, which brings up the question. What was his plan if this didn't happen? Was he just going to pull those giant heavy rocks up and hope for the best?
Tai Lung has been here for years. I'm sure he knew about the giant crossbows above him.
You're not going anywhere, neither is he!
Rhino Clark Duncan.
Are you sending this movie for having Michael Clark Duncan voice this rhino?
This escape is brought to you by Cartoon Physics, allowing Bugs Bunny to thwart other wascals since 1938.
Wait, so you are aware that this kind of movie doesn't follow real world rules? Then why are you constantly questioning that? In animated movies, having physics like this isn't a sin. In fact, audiences pretty much expect that whenever they watch one.
He's coming this way!
He won't get far.
This guard isn't acknowledging that he has already gotten pretty far.
When he says he won't get far, he's referring to getting to the top of the elevator. I'd say he's using the phrase correctly here.
Even dealing with this very implausible escape, how exactly did Tai Lung make it out of that fall? I guess the animators got too lazy to animate him out of that last predicament, so they just ignored it altogether.
That's actually kind of the point. The movie is trying to visually show you how powerful Tai Lung is. Just the fact that he's able to do this is supposed to make you go, whoa, how did he do that? Thus, making you scared of him once he fights the Furious Five and Po later.
Rhino Helm scream.
Sending the Wilhelm scream.
Didn't place any of those 1,000 guards around the perimeter, huh?
Is this sin supposed to be a joke? Because it's clearly contradicted by these guards surrounding Tai Lung.
Did Tai Lung disintegrate him? Why are we just seeing this copper horn shield that has no obvious purpose drop to the ground?
That was Zheng's hat.
Fly back there and tell them the real Dragon Warrior is coming home.
This makes for a cool movie moment of evilness, I guess. But in no way does this make any military sense for the villain to do this. This is 1,000 times worse than monologuing. Sending advance word to the enemy/good guys that you're coming? Cocky is one thing, stupid is another.
Zheng was sent here because Shifu wanted him to double the security after Oogway had had a vision that Tai Lung was coming back. Tai Lung knows his master well, so he knows that they know he's coming back. He sends Zheng back to make them feel afraid, which is something bad guys love doing.
So I guess Shifu's plan is have the Furious Five beat the shit out of him until he decides to go home. I thought this was a family movie.
Well, yeah. Shifu thinks Oogway was wrong in choosing Po, and so wants him to give up and possibly choose the real Dragon Warrior. What about this is kid inappropriate?
Cartoon or not, Po is dead.
This sentence.
But he will.
Another reminder that Jackie Chan got paid handsomely to say 5 sentence fragments, and 2 complete sentences that will come later.
We're still lying about this? Really?
And he raised him as his son.
Father-son dynamic adds wholly unoriginal dynamic to the hero/villain dynamic in this movie.
So what if it is unoriginal? It's still compelling. Honestly, the whole backstory about how Shifu built up Tai Lung as the Dragon Warrior, only for Oogway to say that he isn't, is fantastic character building and explains Tai Lung's attitude in this movie.
But Oogway saw darkness in his heart and refused.
More Yoda Anakin ripoff.
Yeah, no. Oogway saw darkness in Tai Lung's heart, refused to make him the Dragon Warrior, and Tai Lung went on a rampage. Yoda saw darkness in Anakin's heart, refused to train him, but then changed his mind once Qui-Gon died, and Obi-Wan made it clear that he will train Anakin with or without the Council's approval. It wasn't until after Anakin was trained, lost his mother, married Padme, and then got tempted by Palpatine for him to finally start killing children.
This is what I'm talking about with the magic. Why the make the proteges go through literal kung fu gauntlets when there's obviously magic that can be taught? Are we sure this turtle is on the up and up?
Again, magic comes after learning kung fu. Oogway is over 500 years old, so obviously he knows this kind of magic by now.
There are no accidents.
Not believing in accidents.
Oh my gosh, how many of the sins in this video are just Jeremy repeating himself?
Someone needs to tell Shifu that not every moment requires kung fu.
You're telling me if you learned kung fu, you wouldn't be using that in everyday life all the time?
My time has come. You must continue your journey without me.
Oogway heard that Tai Lung was coming, and he accidentally picked a fat panda to be the Dragon Warrior, so he is getting the f*** out of Dodge.
Because Oogway wants Shifu and Po to learn the lesson that there is no secret ingredient on their own. This is extremely common in stories like this. Since we earlier brought up Star Wars, Luke had to do the same thing, learning how to resist the dark side without Yoda and Obi-Wan's help.
Let us stop, Tai Lung. This is what you've trained us for.
No. He trained them to defeat he who has already been defeated and subsequently imprisoned? It's convenient that he broke out, or all of their training would have been a waste of time.
Shifu immediately tells Tigress no, which implies that Tigress believes that's why they were trained. She was simply wrong.
The Pool of Sacred Tears.
Huh? Funny enough, the Pool of Sacred Tears was the name of my band in 8th grade.
You know, for a channel that's supposed to be funny, they sure aren't funny.
When you have been trained, you may eat.
So basically, Shifu is training Po the same way I train my dog to sit, stay, and roll over.
Yes, exactly. Po is different from the other Furious Five and needs food to motivate him in his everyday life. Shifu figured this out in the earlier scene when Po jumped high up just to grab a jar of cookies.
The inevitable training montage we all knew was coming. Imagine Jack Black in a booth recording kung fu sounds for this scene.
So, training montages are sins? Bet you love the Rocky movies.
I highly doubt that Po would be motivated by a bowl of steamed carrots and lettuce.
Considering pandas eat bamboo in real life.
You have been trained. You are free to eat.
Wow, years of kung fu training mastered in a business week. He must really be the Dragon Warrior.
Except it's not all mastered, judged by the fact that there are 2 more movies after this.
Kung Fu Dumpling Hockey. Well, the kung fu version of the shell game is f***ing unfair as hell.
So what was the point of that sin removal?
I'm not hungry.
Shifu shouldn't be hungry either. He ate all the dumplings, which raises the question, why is Shifu viewing this as Po being successful? He only got 1 of the 11 dumplings. This is a kung fu battle where he can quantifiably see who the winner is.
Okay, screw it. I'll just play CinemaWins explaining this. He really says this better than I ever could.
I'm not hungry.
This might seem strange at first because Po is always hungry, but remember,
You eat when you are upset.
which he does multiple times. So his real victory is not needing any comfort food, and also realizing that he still has more to learn.
Man, that prison is really f***ing far away, dude.
Yeah, so?
I don't see why it's such a big deal that Tigress falls. She can just do a flip right before she hits the ground and she'll be fine.
It's possible there's water down there.
I know we have taken some pretty serious liberties with physics in the movie, but Mantis holding the rope bridge with all his friends on it seems far-fetched even for the universe filled with kung fu fighting animals.
This isn't the first time you've questioned cartoon physics, though. Not to mention, it's implied that Mantis has super strength.
I love how the 5 are renowned for their greatness, but due to the movie's overhyping of the Dragon Warrior, 4 of the 5 can't take out a bad guy together, which is some bullshit. Bruce Lee was a badass, but against 4 other badasses, he'd have lost, dog.
That's the point the movie is making. This is why Po is needed, because Tai Lung has grown too strong. Even the Furious 5 can't beat him. And don't say 4 of the 5 there. Mantis moved the bridge the way he did, which helped them. So all of them worked together, but even they couldn't stop him.
That should have killed him, right? Is he dead? I'm willing to suspend disbelief for animal kung fu scenes that involve a mantis holding up a giant rope bridge filled with tigers and leopards, but smacking into the rocks like that is going to bust up a skull. Never mind.
Hypocrisy.
Why is the nerve attack accompanied with a Pink Floyd laser show on the recipient's body?
Nobody cares.
Also, why not just kill them?
I'll allow Shifu to explain why Tai Lung doesn't kill them.
I thought we could stop him.
He could have killed you. Why didn't he? So you could come back here and strike fear into our hearts, but it won't work.
It might. I mean, a little. I'm pretty scared.
Yep, he paralyzed 4 of the 5 and left the flying one to return them home, but somehow also allowed all that to happen before his own arrival. Paralyzed these 4 and then, what? Wait in the bushes for a while? Watch Netflix? The f*** did this guy wait around so long for? And if you tell me it's so the 5 would all make it home in time to make the battle a challenge, I'll tell you he's the worst bad guy ever. He doesn't want to win. He f***ing wants to lose, but only when facing everyone.
Oh my gosh, Tai Lung wants to make them afraid of him. It even works on Po. I am so sick of repeating these points.
He's too fast! Sorry, Po.
For those of you keeping score at home, that's 5 lines for Mr. Chan.
No, that wasn't. You even played a clip of Monkey saying this.
Po?
And he also said this.
It's Shifu.
And this.
We got this! Help her! Who's bigger? Tigress, you've got to try.
That was his 8th line, so you are a liar.
Come, little one. Let's find your mama.
Maybe they realized they didn't give Jackie Chan enough to say as this movie went on, so they wrote in some complete sentences for him, even though what he says still contributes nothing to the story.
So wait, you said that last line was his 5th line, and then you showed him say this, which makes 6, but you've said at least 3 times that Jackie Chan has 7 lines. You can't even lie correctly.
To make something special, you just have to believe it's special.
The old "there's actually nothing special about blank, you just have to believe in yourself" cliche.
Which is a great message, and it's something I'm glad this movie did.
But when Oogway said otherwise, what did you do?
This flashback of Oogway saying no is different from the other flashback of Oogway saying no. Did Oogway tell Shifu and Tai Lung that he couldn't have the Dragon Scroll 2 separate times? Or was Tigress just completely making up that previous flashback in her own mind?
The flashback that Tigress had just showed Oogway not liking Tai Lung's fighting. The flashback that Tai Lung showed is the scene where Oogway said no.
There's a terrible draft at the Hall of Warriors. Someone should shut a window so those peach tree petals stop coming in.
You do realize there is a big hole in the front door, right?
Holy shit, that building was brittle. The goose, pig, or rabbit that conducted the building inspection clearly didn't check the load-bearing studs.
How is it you still don't realize that Tai Lung is super strong?
Matrix Pandalutions.
Jeremy makes a pop culture reference.
Po basically Jar Jars himself through this entire movie.
Wow, literally 2 in a row.
You want to get something to eat?
So now that Po is officially the Dragon Warrior, he and Shifu have the same relationship as college roommates.
Judging by the next movie, which again came out before this video, this is wrong. Gosh darn it, this is maybe the most times I've ever repeated myself in a video ever. First of all, watch the timer in the corner. I didn't edit this at all.
I appreciate the movie era specific DreamWorks logo, but Oogway is dead. Does this mean the normal DreamWorks fishing kid on the moon is also dead and a ghost?
Long ago.
Narration. I appreciate the movie era specific DreamWorks logo, but Oogway is dead. Does this mean the normal DreamWorks fishing kid on the moon is also dead and a ghost?
People get upset when YouTubers like me take CinemaSins too seriously, but here is CinemaSins taking something too seriously. Not to mention, this is a short logo, so he could have easily skipped talking about it, but nope, this video needs to be 15 minutes long.
Long ago.
Narration. Also, huge important expositional backstory told quickly via narration and flashbacks cliche.
So both of these sins are basically saying this opening scene shouldn't exist because other movies have done something similar. But how else should this information be explained to us? None of this was in the first film, and we, the audience, need to understand who this new character is to better understand the film itself, so this exposition is required. Just because other movies did something similar doesn't make it bad.
He would be defeated by a warrior of black and white.
I'm guessing in Kung Fu Panda 3, Po will fulfill some other prophecy, making him the Dexter of fulfilling Chinese prophecies.
I mean, yeah, that is kind of what happens. He is the Dragon Warrior, after all. What's the problem?
The young lord set out to change his fate. But what he did next only sealed it.
That's the lesson Shifu learned in the first movie in 2008, and what Oedipus learned in the 5th century BC. This lesson is a very old storytelling device, is what I'm saying.
And the idea of good versus evil has been around for thousands of years. People never learn sometimes, is what I'm saying.
Horrific panda genocide is firmly implied, but completely glossed over.
Because an implication is all you need. I mean, you know kids are watching this movie, right? I doubt DreamWorks would be willing to show actual scenes of wolves killing pandas.
Where is he hiding out? Mount Doom?
Does it matter where he's hiding? Or did you just want to say that this looks like Mount Doom? Both are sins.
And then the Dragon Warrior joined the Furious Five! And then
If Po joined the Furious Five, what does that make them now? The Ridiculous Six?
It seems like they're implying that Po is with them, but not part of the Furious Five itself. The Dragon Warrior title is already enough for him.
the most awesomest...
These movies are obsessed with the word awesome. Plus 10 sins for never cracking open a thesaurus.
Yeah, that's what a running gag is. Person who sends logos at the beginning of every single video.
38 V1!
No one else is as impressed as I am with Po's ability to speak with large quantities of food in his mouth.
Here we go again with the questioning cartoon logic in every animated film thing.
Does Inner Peace also give you the ability to alter the properties of space and time? If not, then what kung fu power is allowing him to apparate from one location to another?
Anything is possible with Inner Peace. This is something that Shifu explains later.
I mean, how can Kung Fu stop something that stops Kung Fu?
Remember, Dragon Warrior, anything is possible when you have inner peace.
And is also how he was able to move that drop of water around his body.
Oh, the day you were chosen as Dragon Warrior was the worst day of my life.
Shifu really knows how to cut deep. When we think of all the things that have happened to Shifu, his adopted son that he trained to be the Dragon Warrior wasn't the Dragon Warrior, and he went crazy and tried to kill everyone, and then he came back and tried to kill him. Also, his master being carried away by peach tree leaves, and so on. Saying this is pretty low.
According to Shifu himself, none of those things were as bad as Oogway picking Po as the Dragon Warrior, which, I'll remind you, he was mad about because he didn't understand that accidents don't exist and thought they were all doomed to fail after a panda was picked.
Bandits, approaching the musicians' village.
A whole village of musicians? Those bandits aren't going to steal much more than empty pizza boxes and some rolling papers.
That might be one of the stupidest sentences I've ever heard. The wolf boss earlier told Shen that they need more metal to finish their weapons. You know what musical instruments are made of?
Crane's ability to fly, even when he is carrying an inconceivable amount of weight, is so fucking impressive I have trouble believing it.
And shouldn't that have answered your question for how this happened in the first movie?
So did the Furious Five get dropped out of a helicopter, or do they all have the ability to jump 400 feet into the air? I hope this is the same rabbit from the first scene of the last movie that was high as because he looks a heck of a lot better here, but he still looks high as
Pointing things out on the screen.
Get all the metal you can find!
Who is he talking to? He's definitely not within earshot of any of his hyena bandit friends.
Wait. You just called these animals hyenas. These are wolves. Or is this meant to be the satire that I apparently don't get?
Good work, Poe. Warn them that you're coming.
I mean, they probably want to let the villagers know that they're coming to save them, too.
They are doing a lot of standing around for a group of dogs that just need some metal to finish their fleet of cannons.
Yeah, it's called being surprised.
The one image opens up a cavalcade of buried traumatic memories cliché.
Can someone tell me what other movie has done this? And even if that's true, it's still effective, so it ain't a cliche.
Also, Poe's flashback is still inexplicably two-dimensional.
As I said in the last movie, this is an artistic choice, and you don't have the right to tell the artists how to do it.
Well, you see, son, baby geese come from a little egg.
Is Ping really trying to tell Poe he is a goose? Besides him being obviously a panda, all the other animals have referred to him as Panda countless times. Denial must run deep for Ping.
Well, yeah, that's kind of it. Ping doesn't want Poe to learn the heartbreaking truth that he isn't his real father. That's a flaw of the character, not the movie, as I've said many times before.
You might have been kind of adopted.
Listen up, adoptive parents. Waiting this long to tell your child they're adopted is not cool.
I mean, I agree with you on that, but that's still not something wrong with this movie. That's just Ping being a flawed character. He even admits that he should have told Poe this a long time ago, so the movie itself agrees with you.
Ping's flashbacks are not two-dimensional, so this problem is clearly isolated to Poe.
Artistic choice.
Also, adoption backstory no one cares about.
You don't care about this. Actually, that's not even true, because when you seen the first movie, you asked how a duck could adopt a panda, seemingly not knowing about this flashback, so you clearly do care about it. Aha! I've caught you lying!
Poe is the only mammal who was raised without the need for milk. No wonder he's the Dragon Warrior.
I did a quick Google search, and turns out pandas don't typically drink milk. So the sin is for not doing your research.
This is the only time in recorded history a conspicuous trail of food has not ended at a box propped up on a stick.
No, it's not. I immediately thought of Monsters, Inc. for one, and there's probably another example someone in the comments can think of.
And then I made a decision that would change my life forever. To make my soup without radishes.
I don't think that was a decision as much as it was Poe ate all the radishes. But if he was being truthful, we wouldn't have this forced, unapologetic misdirection.
Or maybe Ping realized his soup tasted better without radishes.
Did Lord Shen just use the Force? Gently waving your wing in someone's general direction doesn't seem very kung fu-y to me. Maybe the guards are those easily startled narcoleptic goats.
Firstly, Shen doesn't know kung fu. Secondly, he most likely threw some knives in them, which is something we see him do multiple times throughout this movie.
Did this rhino carve those patterns onto his horn? Or is that just how they're built in this world? I want to believe he carved it himself, because that is hardcore.
Sinning something you like.
Show off.
Speaking of show-offs, he would have been able to use this cannon a lot sooner if he didn't bother to have it carved in the shape of a dragon.
It's meant to make its victims afraid and want to give up.
Some situations require a little less kung fu and a little more getting out of the fucking way.
This movie is implying that Master Rhino could have stopped the cannon if it was less powerful. This is him underestimating Shen.
Son of legendary flying rhino?
Did anyone else just imagine a rhino with wings flying through the air, dipping in and out of the clouds, having the time of his life? Because I sure did.
And that's why you shouldn't have tried to trend surf here, because we see Master Flying Rhino's armor in the next movie, which has metal wings on it.
And that's me giving you a piggyback ride.
This is a painting. Did Poe have to sit on Ping's back, causing him excruciating pain while someone painted this?
Yes.
Poe ball.
More pointing things out on the screen.
The animators in this film got too artsy again.
Sending this beautiful image.
Where did this boat come from? This is the first time they're actually using some mode of transportation instead of just leaping incredible distances. They probably had the boat all along, and Monkey remembered that they had the boat and said, "Remember how we're always just jumping everywhere? Why don't we use that boat that we have on the outskirts of town?" And everyone else was like, "Oh yeah, the boat!" We don't see this because Jackie Chan isn't allowed to talk in this movie either.
Does it matter where they got this boat? And did you expect them to run all the way to Gungman City? Pretty sure they'd get exhausted at some point. Also, according to the script of this movie, Jackie Chan has 14 lines, so you're wrong about that again.
How did he only wake up Tigress? The rest of the 5 are pretty heavy sleepers.
Well, if you didn't just skip past parts of this movie, you would have seen Tigress wake up when Poe got up and walked outside.
Poe, why are you really out here?
Besides the fact that he's definitely the Dragon Warrior and it's his job, you mean?
Did you see what Poe was doing before he saw Tigress watching? She could clearly see that Po had something on his mind and was getting frustrated.
I get the symbolism here, and how this is a slap in the face to his father and all, but now he has nowhere to sit. He should have at least brought his own throne. And they replaced the chair with the cannon? Not only does Shen no longer have a place to sit, he has a giant cannon in his throne room that he will eventually have to move again, because that's a cannon, and it does no good just sitting in the middle of a room.
Shen wants to rule Gongmen City in a different way from his parents, being the cannon to threaten the Kung Fu masters. He has no need for a throne.
30 years I've waited for this moment.
According to the internet, peacocks only live for about 15 years, but if he's partially made of metal, I'm willing— hey, this movie is making me learn again! Damn you, Kung Fu Panda 2!
Really? Because when I googled that, some sources say that they can live for about 20 to 25 years. Also, you googled that, but didn't Google if pandas drink milk?
You're just saying what's happening right now.
He's not talking to me, is he?
In other words, Shen would be excellent at sinning CinemaSins.
A peacock is defeated by a warrior of black and white.
Did no one during the development of this movie tell them what a yin and yang actually mean? It's about how opposite or contrary forces are actually complementary, which doesn't seem to have anything to do with a panda defeating a peacock in battle. It was just a recognizable Chinese symbol that they just threw in.
You are correct about that, but you're also misunderstanding what the movie is saying, as usual. She said that a warrior of black and white will defeat Shen. Po is black and white, and that's what the yin and yang symbol is referring to, not the war itself.
Even with Po causing all this commotion, the wolves still didn't notice that Po is walking around the city streets.
Because he's hiding inside this costume?
Obvious Pac-Man reference is obvious and not enough to save this movie.
Wait, are you implying that this movie isn't good? I mean, sure, it's not quite as good as the first one, but it's still a strong 8 out of 10, and some people even say it's the best movie in the series, so where are you getting this from?
They are surrounded by wolves, yet they are still able to get out from under the costume and into the barrels without anyone seeing them. Maybe they've all mastered that apparating skill that Shifu showed off earlier in this movie.
How? Misdirection.
I'll give you a signal.
Gaga! Gigi!
You mean like Crane does?
Yeah.
Excuse me, when have I ever made that noise?
I hate it when the characters sin the movie in the movie. Makes me feel so unnecessary.
So, Crane would be excellent at CinemaSins? Shouldn't that be what you said?
Then the weapon would kill everyone.
Movie borrows mysterious super weapon of death from all the movies.
Even Rocky?
Movie steals the mine car scene from Indiana Jones and the Deathly Hallows. I mean, Harry Potter and the Temple of Doom. I mean, you know what I mean.
Except that's not a minecart or a railway. Are you sure we're watching the same movie?
Bad guy is practicing his meet the captured good guy greeting, as though he's a good guy, when he's actually a bad guy whose soldiers captured the good guy.
So what? The soothsayer literally says in this scene that Shen is afraid of Po, even though Shen denies it.
Did they set up a memorial for the guy that they very intentionally killed? I mean, that's nice, but kind of odd to seem mournful for someone they murdered.
The fact that they killed Master Rhino, who's implied to be one of the greatest Kung Fu masters, should make anyone who sees it feel afraid and want to give up.
The cannon that was so heavy the two giant gorillas didn't want to move it 2 inches to the left flies up into the air with little effort after Tigress jumps on the front of it. And then Mantis, who is light as a sheet of paper, is able to kick it through the floor with vigor.
Yes, because these movies have made it clear that Kung Fu gives anyone super strength.
Since peacocks are mostly flightless birds, I can only assume that he isn't actually flying, he's falling with style.
I mean, yeah, that's exactly what happened.
Because it's the middle of the year, so you'd only get like a half of the year of the peacock.
Characters from within the movie are continuing to sin from the inside.
Yeah, this is another case of, why don't you just say X would be amazing at CinemaSins? But also, the reason why Shen decides to attack now is because there are Kung Fu masters out there outright wanting to stop him. So might as well rush it, then wait for a specific day.
They all know Po and the Furious Five are still alive, so why are they calling all the wolves, leaving our heroes to roam the city freely?
So they can speed up the cannons being built and kill them faster when they try to stop them.
That makes no sense.
Why is Mantis suddenly so much bigger? Is this some sort of perspective thing that wasn't animated well? Or did Mantis accidentally drink some drink-me liquid from Alice in Wonderland?
Hey Jeremy, I don't know if you know this, but when something small is closer to the screen, it appears bigger.
Sudden cannon hits Po, and I'm instantly reminded of Homer Simpson's stint with the traveling concert and the cannon gag, and I'm instantly no longer worried about Po.
Well, he did almost die here, forcing the soothsayer to heal him.
Just like Yoda in the prequels, Master Shifu is relegated to reaction shots of him feeling something wrong with the Force. I mean, Kung Fu in general.
What? Are you saying that's all Yoda did in the prequels? Let's see if that's actually true.
Around the survivors, a perimeter create. fire on the nearest starship.
Yes, sir. Move all quadrants to Sector 515.
I've become more powerful than any Jedi. Even you.
He did a few more things in episode 3, but I don't want this video to get too long. I think you get my point.
First of all, Poe's panda doll survives the fire. Second of all, would a panda really have a stuffed animal of a panda? If I grew up with a stuffed doll of a white dude, I'd probably have trouble sleeping at night.
Jeremy forgot that action figures and Barbies exist.
Poe finally remembers long-buried memories because the plot needs him to.
You would come to that conclusion if you weren't paying attention to the movie at all. See, what happened was that the soothsayer brought Poe to this village and that helps him remember better. Then the soothsayer mentions that Poe is fighting the memories and so tells him to let it flow, and he goes through inner peace to allow it to come to him a lot clearer.
Poe's version of inner peace is remembering how his parents died. That's f***ed up.
Hold on, his mom died, but his dad is still very much alive. And this isn't even a case of that was revealed in the next movie thing. This movie literally ends with the reveal that his dad is still alive.
I guess inner peace is what allows your flashbacks to look like reality instead of two-dimensional drawings.
Yes, that's exactly it. The 2D to 3D transition was Poe finally learning what happened and accepting it as reality. That's actually great storytelling, but of course you wouldn't notice.
Mom Panda puts Poe on a vegetable cart so he can be saved even if she cannot, and hello, I sense some serious Moses overtones here.
Well, Moses' mom didn't die immediately after putting Moses in a basket, so...
Movie uses over a full minute of the previous movie's footage in an emotional montage. Party foul.
Another example of you not understanding the subtext. Listen to what the soothsayer says before these flashbacks.
Your story may not have such a happy beginning, but that doesn't make you who you are. It is the rest of your story, who you choose to be.
Your past is not what makes you who you are. It's what you do now in the present. That's the message of this movie, which is a powerful one and something that deserves a sin off. But nope. So I'll add an additional 50 sins for you not recognizing this.
I always thought I'd meet a nice girl and settle down, and then she'd eat my head.
NC-17 dialogue somehow makes it into a kids movie.
And yet, you still thought this kids movie would show panda genocide.
Just to be clear, Shen didn't really weaponize fireworks so much as he just decided to point them at people and things.
Are you suggesting that regular fireworks could have destroyed a bridge? Tell me I'm not the only one who realizes how stupid that sounds.
Master Shifu Ex Machina.
Shut up! Shut up! Shut up!
Inner peace. Inner peace.
How convenient that this is the lesson he just learned.
Isn't that pretty much every movie ever? The lesson a character learns helps him win the day in the climax? This isn't anything new, buddy.
What do you mean he's not here?
I remember this woman. I used to have interactions with her when I worked retail. She hasn't changed a bit. Looks and sounds just the same.
Facts.
My son is alive.
How did he find that out sitting in the hut? Maybe he was looking at his iPad and got a CNN news alert. Dragon Warrior defeats evil Lord Shen, storming Ox announces on Twitter.
Not only does this debunk you when you said both of Poe's parents died, but this is another example of why trend surfing is not a great idea. The next movie explains that Oogway sent Li Shan a message letting him know that Poe is in the Valley of Peace. You should have left this sin out, since everyone assumed this would have been explained in Kung Fu Panda 3. But nope, now we're just left with a sin that hasn't aged well at all.
Movie tries to trick me into thinking it started, when in fact it's just another logo. And because of this, 1 minute and 5 seconds of damn logos.
Yeah, criticizing the logos isn't anything new, but that first sin is baffling to me. You're criticizing a movie for subverting expectations. That's literally the joke, dude. And besides, this is still a DreamWorks movie. Did you seriously not expect to see the DreamWorks logo here?
Itchy nose.
Even in the spirit realm, Oogway is still corporeal enough to feel itchy. Pick one!
The film right now is showing you that the spirit realm is simply a different world from Earth, essentially their own version of heaven. This is the rules of this world, and you should have taken note of that.
Do all the rock formations and structures that were destroyed in the other two movies go to the same afterlife as the Kung Fu masters who destroyed them? It seems that way based on Oogway's surroundings.
What kind of an assumption is that? Oogway is literally meditating next to a tree. Why do you question that? The movie is obviously saying that these rocks and trees also exist in the spirit realm. Geez, this video is not looking good so far.
Our battle ended 500 years ago.
Well, now I'm ready for a rematch.
By the looks of it, Kung Fu masters maintain the physical form they possess at the end of their life when they go into the spirit realm, which is unfortunate. Oogway's long and happy life gives Kai the upper hand.
Okay, sure. Now what's the sin?
Oogway writes the Chinese symbol for chi backwards so that Kai, and I guess the audience, can read it, which is considerate of him.
Now you're criticizing the movie for having a cool detail? This is the kind of thing that deserves a sin off.
With your chi, I will finally be able to return to the mortal world.
But why? Who set up this dumb world where if you kill a whole bunch of masters in the afterlife, you get to go back? And why is Oogway the last soul you need? These are some stupid rules, Afterlife.
It's much simpler than you think it is. Kung Fu masters have incredibly strong chi, which I think is safe to say is what makes them able to learn to fight a lot easier. You need strong chi to get out of the spirit realm, and Oogway is one of the most powerful Kung Fu masters in history, and considering he and Kai were friends once, I think it makes sense for him to want to save Oogway for last.
I get that this is just a cloud, but all the rhinos we've seen through the entire series have been good guys. The prison guards, Victor Garber, the rhino that was in the suit that's in the Hall of Warriors. If anything, he should give this cloud a friendly wave as he flies by.
I'll just allow you to send yourself here.
I get that this is just a cloud. Poe gets winded when he walks up the stairs, but running so fast his high fives are flammable is no problem.
How are those two things even comparable?
Shifu got more goose slaves. I wonder how Ping feels about this.
Oh, you still think these are slaves? Not to mention there were already a ton of these geese working for the Jade Palace in the first film.
Is this an intimidation thing? Because the training hall was pretty well lit before these things were here.
Ignoring the point of the scene, Shifu was making a dramatic entrance to prove Poe's point.
You guys never underestimate the power of a dramatic entrance. I've heard about some masters who can win a fight just by throwing open a door.
The Dragon Warrior is correct. Before the Battle of the Fist comes the Battle of the Mind. Hence, the dramatic entrance.
Nice dramatic entrance.
What's that?
I hope Shifu hasn't been doing this the whole time, and all the apparating he's been doing is just Poe's dumb perspective.
Like I said in the last movie, Shifu did that apparating with inner peace, which allows anything to be possible. This, on the other hand, is just a little joke. And it's a funny one.
Tigress literally gets shot with a flaming arrow and responds like she stubbed her toe.
Did you not watch the last movie? Do you not remember Tigress said this?
Apologies. I used to punch the ironwood trees by the palace to train. Now I feel nothing.
So hardcore you don't feel anything.
Yo, wow. Oh, my claw thingy!
Mantis doesn't know the technical term for his appendage.
That is literally the joke. Isn't this channel supposed to be a comedy series?
I'm glad we're not Poe right now.
What a loser!
Look, I know people forget about the great deeds of heroes after a time, but in this world where Kung Fu masters are treated like gods, who actually thinks Poe is a loser after 2 movies of accidental awesomeness that they don't know is accidental?
You know these geese are referring to Poe's bad teaching, right? They think he's a bad teacher and that Shifu and Oogway were wrong.
You set me up to fail? Why?
Because it keeps working.
Can you name the last time Shifu intentionally knew that Poe would fail? Okay, I guess there was putting him through all that kung fu and not expecting him to make it out, but in those cases, he wanted him out. Here, he's trying to teach him a lesson.
Oogway saw greatness in you, Poe, against my better judgment.
Feels like Shifu should be over all this by now after 2 movies and 2 major victories.
He is over it. He's simply saying Oogway knew better than him back then.
That was Chi.
What's chi?
Chi is a fundamental principle of Chinese culture that Po should already know after 2 movies, but he doesn't. Because the audience might not know what it is, someone needs to explain it.
The energy that flows through all living things.
Next thing you're going to do is tell me there's a dark side to all this, and people named Darth Rhinoceros.
Wait, so you know that Chi is a part of Chinese culture? And then say this movie is ripping off Star Wars? You know Chi has been around centuries before Star Wars even existed, right?
Kai's return to the world of the living is a ripoff of both Mortal Kombat and the Terminator franchise.
Arbitrary movie reference.
Kai basically draws a curved line in the dirt, and for some reason that keeps these guys from continuing to run.
The reason is because Kai is scaring them, and they realize if they tried to run, he'd do that again. This was something I've been trying to tell you since the first movie. Villains intimidate anyone for one reason or another.
This goose lays some eggs when he gets scared, because if he shits himself, that would be a little too graphic.
Oh, come on. That was a really clever way of doing this joke, but with him as a bird.
I am ready.
Comical misdirection cliche, aka the basis behind every joke in this entire franchise.
Aren't you the same YouTube channel that reuses a lot of different jokes?
You're in charge of the whole Jade Palace. I can sell noodles in the lobby.
Selling noodles in the Jade Palace doesn't seem like a good business idea. There's very little foot traffic up there.
Well, since everyone does seem to like Ping's soup, I'd say they'd be willing to climb those stairs just to get more. And there are times when they'll have citizens come up to watch Kung Fu.
No, because you didn't swallow them. Just shoving food in your mouth doesn't count.
The challenge is, how many dumplings can you eat? The point is to see how many dumplings you can have in just the mouth. How is it that hard to understand?
I'm Li Shan. I'm looking for my son.
But first I had to beat your dumpling eating record, which I guess is the first thing everyone told me about when I came to town.
He probably did it just to get his attention.
I hope you find your son.
And I hope you find your father.
We know Po is comically inept, so I'll let this slide. But why the hell is no one else saying anything?
That's the joke.
Oh my gosh, it is you!
I mean, he's right, but jumping to conclusions.
Well, he's the only panda in this entire town, and he does resemble his father, so yeah, he's making a logical conclusion.
Our bellies could be brothers!
Lee and Po/Lotus are going to answer Ping's question basically with "we look alike," which proves nothing because all pandas look the same. That's racist.
Hey, I'm the one who's supposed to say that's racist to you.
Sketch bombing.
Pointing things out on the screen.
How could you receive a message if no one could find you?
Ping, calm the f down. I've got this. But yeah, he's right.
So are you saying Ping has a good point here? Play the entire scene. Lee answers his question right away.
How could you receive a message if no one could find you? Sounds suspicious to me.
No, it was a message from the universe.
Whoa. Rats.
Your father!
Everyone immediately forgets about Po playing with the artifacts in the museum immediately upon his father's reveal.
I doubt they're that surprised about all the destruction anyway. And they thought Lee was dead, so this is them being more surprised by that.
Oh, Master Porcupine!
Po's encyclopedic knowledge of all the Kung Fu masters who have ever existed and his incessant need to explain it is extremely convenient to us, the viewer. Otherwise, they'd have to use the actual story to explain who these people are.
This has been a thing since the first movie. I wouldn't call it convenient now. More like it's just a part of who Po is. And it's a more fun way, too.
Fighter who uses bow and arrow and never runs out of arrows, or in this instance, quills cliche.
Another time where you could have done a quick Google search, but chose not to. Porcupines grow new quills after losing some, so this cliche doesn't work here.
I thought he died 100 years ago.
Is the fact that he's entirely jade not a huge red flag to you? Also, remember zombies?
Well, it was. The fact that he's a master from 100 years ago is simply another layer to the question of, who are these guys?
I see you.
What, is this f***ing guy Sauron?
Arbitrary movie reference.
They taught me how to give chi.
And you didn't teach anyone else about it, or tell Po you knew where his f***ing family was.
Well, this event happened 500 years ago, so this was way before Shen attacked the panda village and forced all the pandas to retreat to a different location. I don't think Oogway knew where they relocated until he died.
What could be given could also be taken.
And turned into a handy-dandy little charm bracelet so he won't lose it.
I'm still waiting for the sin.
I banished Kai to the spirit realm.
Which is a fancy way of saying you killed him. But this is a kid's movie, so... Also, this movie had to have been written as Mortal Kombat Extinction, or Mortal Kombat Apocalypse, or whatever they're calling the Resident Mortal Evil X-Men Combat Underworld Furious movie these days.
Just a whole lot of pop culture references. Can you explain what's actually wrong with this scene now?
This is like the fourth montage in 30 minutes.
Again, you repeat things all the time, like misusing Deus Ex Machina.
I raised Po for 20 years.
Since the lifespan of a panda is 20 years, how are all these older pandas not long dead? And Po not knocking on the spirit realm's door?
Wait, you googled that, but not that porcupines regrow their quills?
You can fly?
Po didn't know Ping could fly, and the movie wastes time making Po not know that.
That is the joke. How many times have I said this? Please don't make me say it again.
We're here.
The panda village is beyond the wall. They must be wildlings.
Arbitrary TV reference.
How does this village manage to be summery in the obviously ice-cold mountains? And God help you if you say f***ing chi. I've heard that word enough in this movie to last a lifetime.
That's a decent question, but the answer isn't chi, since we later find out none of the pandas here know it.
This pandas are out of shape joke has officially worn out its welcome.
Same thing I'd say about this series of videos.
He's so handsome, just like his father.
Thank you.
Did Lee tell the village beforehand that he was bringing a stranger into the secret village that no outsiders are supposed to know about?
You know he didn't, since it was only about halfway through the trip that they even knew Ping was with them. And I doubt the other pandas would care if it's just one stranger.
What's that? Dumplings.
Just what this franchise needed. Testicle jokes.
Says the guy who says boner in every other video.
You mean you only eat one at a time?
You remember that fake movie trailer called The Fatties in Tropic Thunder where Jack Black basically played a whole family of fatties? They kind of made that movie here, didn't they?
Arbitrary video reference.
I knew I wasn't eating up to my potential.
I find it hard to believe Po didn't realize this, considering how many times we've seen him shove spherical food into his mouth in large quantities.
This is in the context of Po seeing that pandas don't eat with chopsticks, and he grew up thinking that's how he's supposed to eat. That's why he said this.
She must really be the best ribbon dancer in the world if she's able to lasso Po like this and fling him around the table without breaking the ribbon.
This is an animated film where a panda learns Kung Fu. This is the least ridiculous thing.
They must be in there.
Must they? Can you really just claim this from the first structure you come upon?
How about listening to Master Chicken's words before this? Maybe then you'll see why they came to this conclusion.
Jade creatures attacked our villages. We tracked them here.
With the power that Kai possesses, what the f*** is he doing hiding out far away from the action? Is there any reason why he hasn't just won already? He's got to wait until Po learns some bullshit way to defeat him, then he'll attack, I guess? That's just stupid.
Do you know how many Kung Fu masters there are in China? Judging by the amount of letters we see surrounding Shifu later on, I think it's safe to say it's taking him a while.
Wings up!
Crane turns around to fight, when his time could have been better spent getting the f*** away to warn his friends.
Wasn't he trying to fly away at this moment and Kai just pulled him back in?
Grandma Panda, heads up!
Po killed Grandma Panda.
Yeah, I get it. This is a joke. But since we see her later on, it loses its laughter.
Po's dad is remembering something he didn't witness.
No, this is just for the audience's sake. In fact, it's actually more likely Po is remembering this, since he saw it through visions in the last film.
And the memory he couldn't possibly remember is switching between 2D and 3D animation, because DreamWorks still can't figure out how they want to do flashbacks in these movies.
Technically, this is reused footage from the second movie, though more importantly, we're on the third movie and you still don't understand that this is an artistic choice. This is similar to when you kept criticizing the Harry Potter films for doing things repeatedly. There must be a good reason for it to keep doing that.
I know you're excited to have more lines and screen time in this movie, Monkey, but let the mantis go.
Well, according to the script, Jackie Chan has 14 lines, which is the same amount of lines he had in the last film. The only time I agree with this is with the fourth film, which didn't even have him say one line.
I don't know it, okay? No one does.
There isn't a single panda in that village that knows chi, even though it seems like a pretty important thing to pass down.
You think that every single panda would go through that same process? It requires each one to decide who they are, and I'm not sure they'll always have the answer. I think it's believable that it was eventually forgotten. We're talking 500 years since Oogway learned it from them.
Now they're all...
Even if Po wanted to say they're dead, he wouldn't be able to because no one seems to actually die in this universe, except for Po's biological mother.
Tai Lung is dead, Shen is dead, Oogway is dead, and at the end of this movie, Kai is dead. And he wasn't going to say they were dead, he knows that they would have turned into zombies.
Unless you had an army of your own.
All of us. Yes, Poe, build your child army.
I mean, they're kind of all he's got right now. And it's not just cubs, you know.
The movie is slowly styling itself to try and ease me into another training montage.
And yet, in the Frozen Recent video, you wanted Elsa to have a training montage. Do you like them or not?
So it's official, the pandas are Ewoks.
Arbitrary movie reference.
Like all the evil creatures in this universe, they can be easily defeated with silliness. The Kung Fu masters are all easily defeated by these normal talking pandas. I bet they're just not used to the altitude.
Because it wasn't something that Kai was anticipating. Like, do you seriously think he should have been aware that Poe would do this? Especially since he knows he's a dragon warrior, but doesn't know his style of fighting.
Stop! Yes, enough!
Kai is controlling all the Jade Masters with his mind and his Eye of Sauron thing, but how does he keep track of all of them when they split up? Does he have Sauron picture-in-picture? Or does he have to use the last button on his Sauron remote and switch back and forth?
Questioning magic cliche.
Wait, it's working! No! No! No, it's not.
Kai must be trying the silliness fighting technique to defeat Poe, but it's definitely not working. Stick with what you know, Kai.
Or he's just teasing him. And you know those kinds of sins that only exist to show the audience an important scene? I feel like this was one of them.
I can't send you there, but I can take you there.
Skadoosh!
Poe whooshy fingers himself and it actually works, instead of Poe going to the spirit realm by himself, leaving Kai there to steal everyone's chi.
Do you not see the giant orb around them? Also, that is not how you spell whooshy.
Then we'll finish it here!
Then where will the loser go? The further?
Poe would go into one of those chi medallions like the rest. As for Kai, admittedly, I'm not sure. The way this movie handles his defeat, I assumed he was like dead, not even alive in the spirit realm. But then he shows up in the next movie from the spirit realm, so I'm not sure how that works. But the point about Poe still stands.
The transformation of Poe into a jade thingy takes way longer than normal, giving the pandas an opportunity to pull chi out of their ass.
Did you see how long it took to transform Oogway? That was also in the spirit realm, and since Poe's the dragon warrior, it probably takes longer than him.
You taught us who we were meant to be.
In like a day.
Is that how long you think it took for Kai to get to the panda village? That's impressive if so.
I am the dragon warrior.
Basically, this movie is just telling us, roll with it. We're making this up as we go along. Just ignore whether or not we're making sense. Roll with it. We're making this up.
Can you at least explain why this is stupid, though? Because I honestly don't see how it is.
Chitty chitty chat chat. Shit chat.
Kai has basically the same weakness as 2015 and 1885 Marty McFly.
Pretty sure he would have jumped at him even if Poe didn't mock him like this.
When I sent the message to your father.
Just in case you're one of the few people who didn't figure this out on your own.
Judging by the previous sin where you said Ping's question in that scene was valid, I think this answer was for you specifically.
Can you teach me?
Well, maybe you should ask the congregation of pandas around you, because they're the ones who learned how to do chi. They just transferred the power from the mortal realm into the spirit realm and infused Poe with it. So no, he can't teach you. Except this movie is going to have you believe he can, so f*** it.
Have you not been paying attention? To use chi, you have to know who you are, and Poe showed every panda who they are, and thus they all figured it out. So yes, he can figure out who Shifu is too.
What took Oogway and other masters decades to learn, this group of animals learn in a matter of days.
How did you know it was that short? You just made that up, dude! And you're the one who criticized this movie for making things up. Jeez, there's a lot of hypocrisy in this one, isn't there? Okay, firstly, I'm just adding a sin right away for you making this video 24 minutes long. Like, geez, I know this movie wasn't good, but knowing how you guys operate by now, this is just gonna feel dragged out.
Comcast. Also, 57 seconds of logos, half of which is DreamWorks whipping out its entire animated library for everyone and their mother to see.
And another 3 sins on the freaking logos. One less than Puss in Boots 2, but still, you are padding the sin count already.
You can try to hide it behind a logo transition, but I see your Bruce Almighty Moon and I sin it.
Arbitrary movie reference.
We start out with some rams just minding their own business, but I do not believe this is how you mine things, unless all the miners beneath you have waived their rights to not being crushed to death by falling debris, or the mine happens to be in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
None of these rams look like they'd be in range to be hit by falling debris anyway, and I think they would have thought of that.
Hey!
These creatures greet each other by making a bleeding noise that sounds like hey, and therefore anthropomorphic hilarity is created.
That's really funny that CinemaSins, the comedy channel, is criticizing comedy when they have some really bad jokes too. Remember the MI6 joke? Oh, right, you guys didn't watch that video. But why though?
Bright eyes burning like fire. Bright eyes, how'd you blow out those flames?
Jeremy sings in a video cliche.
That's right. It is I, Tai Lung.
It can't be.
I'm with you, random ram of outrage. That sounds completely impossible and absolutely not like something that literally happened in the previous movie.
What? I don't remember Tai Lung coming back in the previous movie. Or wait, are you referring to Kai escaping the spirit realm? If so, that movie made it super clear that Kai had been forgotten about, so I doubt these Rams would even know about him or his backstory. Didn't you sin that movie?
I have returned to take what is mine, which is everything that is yours.
But my first course of action will be to destroy and set fire to your means of gathering resources so that you have even less for me to steal.
And just like the previous Kung Fu Panda films, you still don't understand the idea of intimidation. The chameleon is trying to show her dominance over these Rams, which includes threatening to kill them if they don't comply. It's baffling that you still don't understand this.
If I know our son, he's probably just kicking back and catching some rays.
Somebody was so desperate to include this sun ray manta ray pun that they forgot the dragon warrior is probably not relaxing on a beach. He's much more likely to be stealing a job from a more qualified tiger or eating a dumpling.
But he could probably be eating that dumpling on the beach.
Kung Fu! Announcing your attacks. You don't hear me sit behind my desk and suddenly shout, "Sitting movies!"
Dude, that has literally been Poe's character since the first movie. He's always excitedly said stuff out loud. This is just consistent characterization.
This manta ray that has laid waste to most of the dock could easily break this stick and drag Poe under, resigning him to slow death beneath the waves. But instead, it chooses to fight Poe in the air for some reason.
Did you seriously suggest that drowning could kill the dragon warrior?
You serious?
I'm late. Oh, I'm late.
The hero character is worried about being late for a trivial event, when the reason for their lateness is the very not trivial saving of lives.
Narration.
Sign whatever you want.
Poe! Master Shifu!
Character blinded by own fame blindly signs mentor without realizing cliche.
I honestly don't remember seeing that in any other movie.
Unfortunately, no, they're off on super cool kung fu missions.
Actually, the fate of the Furious was that this nostalgia fest couldn't afford to bring back the people we're actually nostalgic for. Apparently, milking a panda is becoming quite an expensive undertaking. Also, rumor has it that Jackie Chan still picked up a healthy payday for this movie since he's technically in it just as much as the previous three.
I was almost about to remove a sin for you rightly sinning the movie for not including the Furious 5 until the very end. But then you had to bring back that old joke about Jackie Chan barely being in these movies. Like, he doesn't even have a line in this one. And going back to count, he had 38 lines in all three movies combined. I think that's plenty, especially since he was only a side character.
And once again, destiny calls for you to take the next step on your journey.
What are you talking about? I've already taken all the steps.
After 16 years, 3 movies, a holiday special, and 3 TV shows, you would certainly f***ing hope so, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but the TV shows aren't entirely canon. I mean, I got way too many comments on my How to Train Your Dragon videos about those shows, but the movies ignore them, so I don't think we should take them into consideration. They were meant to just expand the franchise and give the kids stuff to watch, which is exactly how they should have treated Megamind vs. the Doom Syndicate, instead of building it up as the grand return of Megamind.
It is time for you to choose your successor. A successor to be the next Dragon Warrior.
Okay. Hold the bamboo, because I'm about to be oozled. In the first movie, that mellow tortoise Oogway said he was looking for the Dragon Warrior for like 500 years, and was waiting for some stereotypically vague prophecy to be fulfilled. So what gives Shifu the right to suddenly say, I'm bored of you now, let's find a new Dragon Warrior?
Being the next Oogway is not my destiny, which I have accepted and am at peace with. Really, it's fine.
You don't sound fine.
You don't sound fine.
So this find a new Dragon Warrior bullshit is all because Shifu is feeling butthurt about not getting the staff?
How did you come to that conclusion? It's obvious the idea of passing the torch is something that must be done, and Shifu understands that. Granted, I'm still a little confused about it because I thought the Dragon Warrior was just one individual, but maybe I'm missing something.
Who you are will always be a part of what you become.
And what you will become was always part of who you are. But
skip!
You'll start interviewing candidates first thing tomorrow morning.
Interviewing candidates? Last time it was decided by a tournament, which was ultimately ignored in favor of Oogway choosing Po seemingly by mistake. I mean, that was some bullshit that I'm pretty sure we sinned, but at least be consistent with your bullshit so I don't have to craft new sins.
And as I explained to you over a year ago now, Oogway didn't believe in accidents, so if Po just happened to fall in front of him and his finger just happened to point at him, then that means he must be the Dragon Warrior. Though, I guess according to the third film, he intentionally chose him. Okay, never mind. That should have debunked this sin, because the third movie said Oogway chose Po on purpose, so of course it makes sense for Po to choose the next candidate.
Awesome! Sure is. And if the Valley of Peace is ever under siege by an avalanche of fruit salad, this guy is 100% the first person you should call.
Jeremy, this bull is really skilled with swords and is demonstrating that by cutting up fruit. How is that not obvious to you? Why do you have to make up criticisms about a movie that already isn't good?
Now we get a mulch man, a gravel guy, and this skadoosh, and it's all a waste of runtime because Po ultimately decides to finger himself.
Sex joke aside, that's literally the start of Po's character arc in this movie, being that he refuses to accept change only to learn to get over that by the end when he chooses Zhen as the next Dragon Warrior.
Nothing about them says dragon or warrior.
Says the current Dragon Warrior, who is a panda with no previous fighting experience.
I think that was the joke.
You can't hide from justice forever!
DB Cooper has entered the chat, strapped on a parachute, and exited the back of the chat at an altitude of 10,000 feet.
Okay, that joke was actually pretty funny. Take us in off.
Oh no! He's got a walking stick. What are you gonna do, stroll me to death?
Between this, The Bad Guys, If, Migration, The Little Mermaid, Raya and the Last Dragon, and like a billion other animated movies, I'm almost positive the Aquafina is setting up her own shared universe populated solely by characters voiced by her. I'm not mad. You get your dollar bills, Quiz Lady. I just wish we didn't have to give DreamWorks a cut, too.
So the sin here is Aquafina is in a lot of movies. You know, I could say the same thing about Jack Black, Dustin Hoffman, James Hong, Bryan Cranston, Viola Davis, Ian McShane.
I'm just gonna say it. Nothing about you says dragon or warrior.
Jen would be excellent at making points I've already made.
Again, that was literally the joke.
Wait, she?
Mine.
Po dismisses this act of wizardry far too easily instead of burning Jen at the stake for witchcraft.
You think Jen stealing the lantern was witchcraft? What?
The Empress of Disguise, capable of taking any form, mimicking any shape.
Lamp's position.
Sinning the movie for doing something you always ask for.
So she's shapeshifted into Tai Lung!
Movie makes the interesting choice to pivot out of the Wrath of Khan and into Picard Season 3.
Arbitrary movie and TV reference.
Mind your own business, squirrel.
Master Shifu is not a squirrel.
I'm a red panda.
He is not. I mean, he is, but come on. He really is.
I think this is a joke, but I genuinely can't tell what's funny about it.
So does this really unlock the door to the spirit realm?
It doesn't work like that. It has to be given in order to gain its powers.
Jen asked what the staff does. She did not ask how it was activated.
Yeah, but she implied that she wanted to use it, so Po is pointing out that she can't unless he gives it to her.
How bad can one evil sorceress be?
Evil being in the name should be a pretty good indicator, but let's fade to a scene already in progress and see if this sheds light on the subject.
But Lee doesn't actually believe this. He later reveals to Ping that he's faking the calm attitude and is truly afraid for his son.
Then you, my friend, can begin to fathom just how far I can push.
I'd say you can push him just about as far as a PG movie will let you push him, which is down these steps in a comical fashion that results in no real lasting health consequences.
Have you never fallen down the stairs before? It is not fun.
Do you want the cookie or not?
Wait, why does that seem so familiar? Damn it, DreamWorks. You keep Fantastic Mr. Fox's quirks out of your damn mouth.
Says the guy who made the Star Trek reference earlier.
Excitement?
Yes, these two are literally the best part of this whole movie.
The Happy Bunny Tavern. Well, that sounds inviting.
Dramatically timed juxtapositional bunny defenestrations.
Pointing things out on the screen, cliche.
Start faster!
Yep, this kid's movie has a bunny being forced to cook itself to death.
Well, that's not true, since the bunny never actually dies.
Whoa, one of everything is my go-to order. But how did you pay for this?
But wait, When you came in, he said,
I'll find us a ride. Maybe you can get us some food.
So how was Poe expecting her to pay for the food if he had all the money?
Another rebuttal that seems so freaking obvious, but here it is. Zhen bought a lot of food, and Poe is curious how she was able to afford all of this. Like, it's literally in the scene.
I'm proud of you.
I have questions. I'm assuming Zhen cheated by playing whatever mahjong tiles she wanted, but where did the extra tiles come from? Does she always have mahjong tiles stuffed in her tail just in case? We've seen her do some crazy acrobatics, so if that's the case, why is it only this hit that has knocked them all loose?
Destroy them!
A crucial choice in any action film is the why behind the violence. You can have compelling reasons for conflict that support the overall story, or you can just throw in contrived bar brawls that are the result of poor impulse control. One of these types gets a sin. Guess which one?
But you just showed in that first sin that Zhen cheated, and she used that unearned money to pay for all the food. Of course these animals would be upset and want to start a fight.
Who designs a tavern on a cliff?
Movie continues to create stupid things so it can point out stupid things before I have a chance to. Also, the question I'd actually be asking is who designed this squirrel tail to be able to take the weight of a falling 300-pound panda?
Squirrel tail? You know Zhen is a fox, right?
It's gonna be great to be back home again.
Does your family live there too?
They would, if I had a family.
You don't know that. Let's just say they wouldn't have moved to Toledo.
Jeremy yells at the screen cliche.
It wasn't easy being a little fox in a big city.
Oliver, skip.
Still don't understand the point of these skip sins. This is meant to show us Zhen's backstory, explaining where she comes from, and gives us an idea about who she is now. That's kind of important.
One day a local took me in.
And despite me being eternally grateful, I continued to refer to them as a local for the next several decades so that I wouldn't ruin the reveal in this movie.
How does that make any sense to you? We know that Zhen's guardian is the chameleon, so why would she reveal that to Poe? The whole point of this journey is to bring him to her and convince him to give her the Staff of Wisdom. You are literally asking for Zhen to give Poe a hint about her ulterior motives. Like, what?
I can't even come up with one of those cool sounding proverbs. Life's greatest enemy is, I don't know, stairs?
At something like 1 million injuries and 12,000 fatalities a year in the US alone, Poe is not as wrong as the movie wants us to think he is.
And yet, you still included that earlier sin about the chameleon knocking the bear down the stairs?
I'll show you where this villainous sorceress lurks as she dominates the city.
Is she lurking in that villainous tower dominating the city?
All right, movie, if you're gonna write the sins, I guess I'll just say, skadoosh.
I mean, the chameleon kind of wants Poe to go there, so I doubt it's meant to be a big secret.
We gotta get out of here before they call for backup.
That's a lot of bull!
No f***ing kidding. How the f*** did all these cops get here so quickly? Poe and Zhen escaped the paddy wagon seemingly without the driver even realizing, jumped off a bridge to some random part of town, and then somehow all these cops have been immediately mobilized and know exactly where they are. Were the cops in charge of animating this scene?
I'm pretty sure that was the joke. They even made a similar joke later about how Poe's face is already on a wanted poster. So that shows that this town moves surprisingly fast.
No one will be seated while Kung Fu Panda 4 takes time out to retcon idioms.
Oh, come on. This scene deserved a send off. The fact that they didn't have the bulls destroy any of the glass is a great expectation subversion.
I always knew someday you'll find your way home back to the den.
Oh man, they dragged the Everything Everywhere All at Once version of Sid from Ice Age into this mess.
Did you seriously just compare Wayman Wang to Sid the Sloth? How freaking dare you?
He who resorts to violence now will only find more violence later.
So what you're saying is, if we don't hurt Zhen a little now,
we can hurt her a lot later.
Ugh. These assholes come up with a literal interpretation of this Poe verb that suggests some kind of interest accrues when you put your violence in the bank, but it fails at being literal, is exhausting, and is only funny to kids because they're dumb.
One could say the same about these videos.
Thank you.
Don't drink that.
I hope these kids get a spin-off with the penguins of Madagascar and that f***ing squirrel from Ice Age, and they all just pour acid on each other.
Arbitrary movie references.
The back door seems a little more practical.
The perfectly logical and altruistic argument that ultimately carried very little weight with my college girlfriend somehow makes its way into the movie.
Again, this is the same guy who criticized this movie for bad jokes.
It's supposed to remind me that every pit holds the promise of a mighty tree.
Every pit except this one because it won't grow into anything hanging out in your pocket.
Taking an obvious metaphor literally.
Hey, look! Poe was here.
I guess pandas were also endangered in ancient China. Sure, it sucks, but at least you know when you're out looking for a panda and you find a piece of panda fur on the ground and you are surely hot on the trail of the one specific panda you are looking for.
But didn't the last movie reveal a huge village of pandas? And I doubt there will be any other panda in Juniper City anyway.
Why would you put a manhole cover down like this? And if you were a manhole cover, why would you roll away instead of falling over? And why did they make this a thing at all if loud noises and dumbassery aren't enough to disturb Komodo dragon nap time?
All of this can be explained away by...
That's the joke.
I present to you the studio that brought us the Prince of Egypt.
Well, the same studio also gave us the Boss Baby, so that's old news at this point.
What's the point of making the discs in this murder tube have holes big enough for the intruders to get out? Feel free to steal my stuff or kill me in my sleep, but only if you can complete this physical challenge.
Are you not aware that the chameleon wants Poe to come in?
Jen, where are you taking my staff?
I think you mean my staff.
So this was Zhen's plan all along. Drag Poe to the chameleon's hideout and then somehow trick him into handing over the staff. I guess it's not a terrible plan, but considering the chameleon has managed to dominate all of the crime families in the region and can basically turn into anything she wants, I don't know why she went through all this trouble instead of just bullying it out of Poe by threatening to turn into a killer whale and sitting on his dad's. Would have made for an incredible visual, too.
I'll give you this. You did make me realize that she could have just turned into someone Poe trusts and then have him just give her the staff. But still, this scene should have debunked all those sins earlier where you seemingly didn't know that this was Zhen's plan all along. Trust me, I've done that plenty of times where I received new information and revised my script to reflect it. So a channel that has multiple writers should be able to do this too.
I wanted to be a master of Kung Fu.
I'm beginning to think Kung Fu is the problem and not the solution in these movies.
That's like saying the Jedi are the problem in Star Wars. Oh, wait, that's literally what the Acolyte tried to say.
I was turned away from every training hall I went to. They would say I was too small. Too lowly.
Well, then how the f did Mantis get a job?
Thank you. I thought the same thing the first time I saw this movie. You finally found a real sin that wasn't ruined by something else you said. I'm annoyed it took you this long, but I'll give credit where it's due.
Kung Fu may be performed by the body, but its secrets are housed in the spirit.
And that makes it downloadable?
I mean, that's literally what Kai did in the last movie.
You'd need at least 10 dragon warriors to get through them.
Then I won't go through them. I'll go under them.
Oh, Poe, that's so dumb. Why would the chameleon go through this convoluted plan just to leave such an easy escape route?
Well, that's frustrating for all sorts of reasons.
What?
I was about to say she was simply being overconfident, but I'll admit that I laughed, so I won't change the sin counter.
Son!
Oh wow, rare and elusive Deus Ex Quackina.
Just like in my Wall-E video, this doesn't count because Ping and Lee have been following Poe all movie.
When the blood moon rises to its highest point in the night sky, I will open the door to the spirit realm.
Spooky shit is possible when the moon is doing spooky shit cliche. Am I making too many cliche sins?
Yes, you are.
Poe might be an idiot, but he'd never willingly hand over Oogway's staff to the likes of you.
But you just asked who she was, so how do you know enough about her to claim she isn't worthy? I mean, just on a surface level, she seems to have her shit together more than that tripped out tortoise.
But she also opened a portal to the spirit realm and let Tai Lung out. I doubt Poe would hand the staff to anyone who'd want to do that, and Tai Lung knows this.
I don't share my skills with anyone.
It wasn't a request.
It looked like Tai Lung was headed back into the spirit realm, which, based on the last few movies, is where people go to die and get shelved between cash grabs or become force ghosts or whatever. So why is Tai Lung bothering to fight? What if he just lets these lizard guards kill him? Wouldn't that send him back to the spirit realm? Can he even be killed? Why is Glowy Halo? Glowy Halo means nothing.
Okay, even I'm still not entirely sure how the spirit realm works, but from context clues, it seems like once you're brought out, you can't go back in unless the portal opens up for you. And I doubt he could be killed, since he's already dead anyway.
Please, I made a mistake.
And we're so glad you realized it for no other reason than it's time to kick the third act into gear so we can wrap this thing up.
Judging by her facial reaction when she gave the staff to the chameleon, it seems like she instantly regretted it because she has developed feelings for Poe. The whole point of the movie is around their friendship.
I'm gonna get that staff back, restore your kung fu, and return you all back to the spirit realm.
Even though real death may not exist in this universe, this is still a threat to kill them all again.
Fair, but the spirit realm gives one eternal peace, so I think they'd love to go back.
Can't you even die right?
I think the better question is, why can't you even kill right?
I mean, she literally knocked him off a cliff, and he would have died if his dads weren't there to save him.
Take it. I already have everything I need from it anyway.
Then destroy it! Why would you arm your enemy? Even if your strength brings you an abundance of confidence, why make life harder for yourself? Destroy it! Make a tasteful lamp out of it, but don't give it back.
It's called overconfidence. You know, like you in these videos.
Yeah, I know.
But how did you know?
I saw it in a vision.
So the vision let him know that there was a problem, but didn't give him any information about how to solve the problem.
That's literally cheating.
Because I'm the Dragon Warrior. For now, at least. But I've realized that it's probably time I made a change.
Why? Why have you suddenly realized that? I can't think of a single damn thing that's happened in the last few days that would inspire him to not be the Dragon Warrior anymore. Is it just that he's as fed up with these movies as we are?
Wow. Just wow. You skipped the conversation Poe had with Ping, which helped him realize why change is a good thing, and that inspires him to give up the Dragon Warrior mantle.
Change doesn't always have to be a bad thing. Why do you think I always change the menu at the restaurant? Because if things stay the same forever, sooner or later, they would lose their flavor.
Then maybe we could both let go of who we were and become something better than we already are.
Great message and all, but it's hard to learn that lesson from a franchise that is incapable of learning its own lesson and will forever and always be about settling things with Kung Fu.
That's more of a hard lesson for the villains to learn, since they're the ones who force Poe to solve the problem with Kung Fu.
As the story of this cameo goes, Tom Cruise showed up the day they were filming and they let him fill in for Poe. Apparently, he did all his own stunts, and it was weird because no one even called him or asked him to come.
None of your Tom Cruise jokes are funny, dude. Stop it.
The movie attempts to save itself with some technical wizardry by stealing the body lock vertical to horizontal camera action-y pivoty point thingy that was first used to make Tom Hardy look cool in Upgrade. I know this because I know cinema shit.
Yeah, sure you do.
Also, you get sent to a special level of sin hell when your movie ends up in a same versus same fight when one of your sames has been specifically designed with the ability to beat anything.
Your same versus same sins have never made sense, but this one is particularly egregious since the chameleon uses her tongue and fire breath in this fight, so it's not just a simple Poe versus Poe fight.
You aren't completely useless after all.
Poe has finally earned respect of all the villains throughout history, which he shouldn't really give a shit about, right? And isn't this the perfect opportunity for them to keep villaining? But instead, they'll all happily return to the spirit realm so they can carry on not existing or whatever the it is they do over there.
I kind of like the idea of Tai Lung coming to respect Poe, but I absolutely do not buy Shen or Kai doing the same thing. And we don't know enough about the other villains to say if they would have done it either. This is one of those rare sins where I kind of both agree and disagree with you, so once again, I won't change the sin count.
This looks nothing like the movement the chameleon did to open the door to the spirit realm earlier. Like, it's not even close.
The portal also looks completely different too, so this shows that this is not the only way to open it.
Out of all the candidates you choose to train as your worthy successor, you chose the fox?
Yep, it's utter bullshit and a big old you to all the Fantastic Five, especially Tigress. I don't see why Tigress should be punished for Awkwafina being an easier get than Angelina Jolie in 2024.
Did you say this when Poe was chosen back in the first movie? Why is this any different?
Also, the best thing to come out of this movie and possibly this franchise is this Tenacious D cover of Hit Me Baby One More Time. And while I'm tempted to give it a sin removal, this movie has put me in such a bad mood that I will instead sin the One More Time element for the eventual summoning of Kung Fu Panda 5.
Worst ending to a CinemaSins video ever. I agree with you that this movie wasn't very good, but this song made the whole thing worth watching in my eyes, so it definitely should have deserved a sin off. So I'll add a few sins for this disgrace of an ending.
If I had a nickel for every time
a fourth movie came out in 2024 that also had every villain from the previous movie return for cameos,
I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right?